We've known forever that the immune system weakens as we get older, but now we have more data on the correlation, direct correlation of strengthening and boosting your immune system in specific ways, not just qualitatively, quantitatively, and being able to have that have a direct cause effect impact on our biologic age in different regards, in multiple regards. It's the same thing effectively. It's just that under this term and umbrella, we're getting more aggressive. There's more advanced markers. We can catch things earlier, which not everybody wants to know about. But nonetheless, we're talking about category 1 is the age-related diseases. And that's important because I don't know how much value we're going to get talking about categories 2 and 3 if you've got some topics you got to deal with in category 1. You need to stop the bleeding if you've got one of those 4 issues that are kind of further down the track. Okay. So category 2 is what I think of as what I call the ground level root causes of aging. Okay. And so here we're talking cellular mechanisms of aging. And this is where a lot of the science is really evolved over time. And it's fast and furious, but there's so much that's still to be learned. Okay. And we're not going to get into super technical detail, but good examples. So number 1, the biologic clock topic comes into play here. All right. We're talking about in mechanism, if anybody knows that, in terms of the terms methylation, it's methylation, what happens to our DNA, et cetera, et cetera. Biologic clock testing. And then for people who know, or I don't know if you're aware, but our DNA, right? Our DNA has these caps on the end that are called telomeres. Yep. And these things are like protective for our DNA. And as we get older, the telomeres kind of shrink and then our DNA becomes more vulnerable, okay, to aging, to toxins and all this kind of stuff. And so there are ways to assess the telomeres and also stabilize them or even lengthen them to protect our DNA for longer, okay? And there is data on the effect of that with longevity medicine, okay? And then there's the third big category for me is the immune system. All right, everyone knows, we've known forever that the immune system weakens as we get older, but now we have more data on the correlation, direct correlation of strengthening and boosting your immune system in specific ways, not just qualitatively, quantitatively, and being able to have that have a direct cause effect impact on our biologic age in different regards, in multiple regards, and therefore longevity medicine, right? So those are the 3 kind of like, for me, those are the 3 big topics on the cellular level, root causes of aging on a mechanism cell level. And then the third big category for me is more like, it's more to do with exercise. All right, we could say nutrition, exercise, but lifestyle factors. And largely, we put this, we present this in our messaging in the programming, if you will, as muscle, your longevity organ. All right. There's a doctor out there, Gabrielle Lyon. She's known out there. She has books and podcasts and other matters. And we're not, copywriting. It's just that people know that. Some people know this sort of like branding messaging, if you will. And there's a lot of data behind what she's talking about. Okay. It's not just fluff and marketing. There's a lot of data on the impact of our muscle mass, our muscle strength. And there's a reason she talks about muscle is the longevity organ. And so here we tie in not just exercise and nutrition in general, but more specifically, we've gotten to this point, we have very quantified science around the topic of VO2 max, which a lot of people know about, right? And anyone who follows PRT on any level historically, not just him, but he's just kind of made it more of a known thing. VO2 max has a lot of meaningful data. And I show people this in whatever practice setting I'm in on a regular basis, these slides pointing out that this is medical study, all right? This is not done by a VO2 max company, et cetera. If you're comparing smokers to non-smokers, year to year, year over year, a smoker has about a 41% increased risk of dying year to year than a non-smoker. A person who has heart disease, however that's defined in the study, I can't speak to right now, but a person who has heart disease has about 29% greater risk of dying any year after year versus someone who doesn't have heart disease. If you take it around the other way, so the goal here historically is like, right, in conventional medicine is stop smoking or prevent progression of heart disease, because we can't reverse that per se, is the conventional speak anyway. So we're trying to say we want to address those things because those are killers. Okay. How about instead of stop smoking and stop the progression of heart disease, can we actually reverse course and make somebody younger and healthier through exercise? And the answer is yes. Okay, here's one example. In that same slide, in that graph, we show people, if you are in a 5 category ranking system of where you're at with your VO2 max by age and gender. If you're in category 2, which is called below average, there's no average, okay? It's low, below average, above average, high, and elite. If you're at level 2, below average, if you move just one category over by exercise and go from below average to above average, it's a 42% difference in your year after year risk of dying in a given year. So if the argument here is if you can move your VO2 max by exercise with certain kinds of predictive prescriptive exercise, if you will, and improve your VO2 max, that is arguably as or more effective than effectively making a person a non-smoker or wiping out heart disease. And that's like crazy. It's still kind of unbelievable to me, to be honest with you, but it's the data. All right. So there's our three, going back to your question of, how do we think through longevity medicine? All right. And I'm not saying this is simple because I've just presented 3 categories and each category has its own subtopics. But number one is just where do you stand? Where does the person stand in the age-related diseases? Are there markers? Do they have risk factors? And do they have signs that's already progressing? And how far down the track are you? Okay. If you're 40, 45 years old, chances are very slim that you've got any issues there, right? If a person wanted to look under there anyway and look under the hood, fine. If, just to know where your risk factors are, your baseline status, et cetera, with markers. But if you're 65, chances are you've got some progression on some of those, but hopefully they're just on the low side. And okay, so this is just our starting point. Okay. But if we find things that are more meaningful and weren't expected, we need to put focus there first, because we got to stop that bleeding. Then if people are more motivated to just look at it all together, we look at those root causes of aging, right? Category 2, the telomeres, the biologic age, the immune system, because I don't know that people are going to feel differently if we address those things. And they're not as common to people's awareness as of right now in the lay public. So there's more education involved there, right? And then the third category is something that people can take action on and feel more agency over and feel in control over is exercise, eating and exercise. For me, that's not always a good thing because there's a lot of people who won't execute it. And I'm not judging that. It's just whatever, time, effort, good intentions, but it doesn't happen. And then there's guilt that comes over that and all that stuff. So, but the third category is more the, eating, exercise, and people really relate with that, obviously. But it's just that now we have the tools to show people it's not just eating healthy is good for you, exercising is healthy for you. It's more finite is we can show you exact ways that, based on what we know so far right now, how to more regimentedly, more predictably execute those directions to get the achieved outcome that you're aiming for.